Hi, my name's Kim. I'm an East Asian medical provider and I am licensed. I'm certified by the national organization and I completed school at one of the top Chinese medical schools here in the United States. And since completing school, I've continued my education and I've been continuing my education with a Taoist bent. So this past week, I was sitting and listening to one of my Taoist instructors, and something came up. Wei. And you've probably seen a lot about this on the web. Everybody's talking about how do you get to Wei, what is action, non-action. And, that concept's really, really large. But for me, I wanted to talk about that concept as it relates to you trying to attain perfect health. When we talk about action in Taoism, it's about being 100% present and being 100% involved in whatever the action is. And so when you're looking at Wei, it's how can you be 100% in whatever action that you're doing? And think about that on your daily life. So we were at the grocery store. My husband and I were at the grocery store the other day, and it was weird at the grocery store. It was very young and very aggressive. And we just got out of the car and we were just shutting the door. And this person wanted to back up into the parking space right next to us. And so instead of waiting the 2.5 seconds, they started beeping their horn. Okay, weirdo. But, for me, I was a little taken back, but, people are super aggressive and super young today. Well, my husband was back out at the car, getting something out of the car, and this person it was so important that they got into that parking space at the exact minute that they wanted to get into that parking space was coming back to their car. And let's say it was his wife waiting for him in the car. When he got in, he bought 2 bottles of water in the grocery store. And when he got in, he literally gave his wife one of these. That is the exact opposite. Obviously, that person was 100% in whatever ever action they were doing. So getting that water completely put this person out. I mean, super offended that he had to do something as inconveniencing as going in and buying 2 bottles of water. And he made sure that everybody around him knew that. So he just barfed his sense of inconvenience all over everybody. Thanks for sharing. It really made my day better. So that's one side of not Wei. So Wei is about finding peace, finding 100% peace in what action you're doing. And in order to find that peace, it is taking your action. And a lot of times for us, it's dumbing down our action. And so I'm going to talk about this from a health perspective. So what that person did was super young, super aggressive, super pushing themselves out onto the internal environment. When we look at Wei, it's about coming back into ourselves. It's about finding that peace within ourselves so that we can participate in this world in a healthy and safe way. If that isn't about Wei, well, then what is? And Wei is about being 100% present in the moment. Yet it's 100% present in doing the best you can do in that moment. And it brings back to mind, I wrote an article a couple years back on the 2014 commencement address that Admiral McRaven gave to the U.S. Navy. It was an amazing address, and I had to listen to it. I listened to it a couple times because what a fantastic, thought-provoking, uplifting address. And what it was about if you wanted to, it was everything that he needed to learn, he learned by making his bed. And I thought, wow, that's super Taoist for sure. And after listening to his commencement address, it actually changed the way I made my bed every morning. That's what a huge impact he had on me with that simple commencement address. In fact, now when I make my bed, I literally make sure to pull the sheets up so they're nice and straight, and so that the pillows can sit on top, and that the spread and the comforter is pulled all the way up and tucked under the pillows. So the whole bed looks clean and inviting for when I come back home to go to sleep at night. That's wu-wei. That is taking your one task, giving it your complete attention, and trying to do the best that you can for you and for everybody around you. So for me, for my husband, it's really awesome to have this really nice, clean bed to jump into at night. And so that's something that I can do for myself, for my husband, for everybody around me. That's wu-wei. It's doing something, being 100% involved, thinking about it, and doing the best you can for not just yourself, but for people around you. Okay, well, if that's wu-wei, let's think about that when it comes to your wellness. There's another part to this. It's not just being 100% involved. It's about making sure that you can accomplish these tasks. Today, we always look at these really big things and we jump out and we try to do these really big things. So when it comes to health, I'm going to talk about diets, because that is the one thing that most of us have tried, or we're trying, or we're reaching out for, grasping for, hoping that that is going to change our health and make us beautiful and well again. And there's a lot of issues around diets, but let's talk about this. When you do your diet, you know you have to be 100% in. It takes attention every day, and it takes a lot of attention, because usually these diets, they have you changing everything you're eating, and they have you eliminating huge pieces of food groups. So how you eat today has to completely change, and it has to do this overnight. That means in order to even start to make this successful, you have to be 100% in, and you have to be thinking about this every day. You have to be thinking about this when you go to the grocery store, when you cook, when you think about grabbing a snack, when you wake up in the morning. Every moment of your day is actually focused on dieting in so many subtle ways. And what ends up happening, sometimes people lose the weight that they wanted to, and the minute they lose that weight, they have to dump that diet because it's taken so much attention, or it's taken so many key nutrients out that they actually needed, that they're actually feeling sicker than when they started. So diets take a lot of attention. And you could make your diet goal, and then you're going to stop doing the diet because it just took too much attention and too much work. Or you could go to the point of exhaustion where you didn't make your diet goal, but just the amount of focus and attention and monitoring your cravings and your food choices has just become overwhelming. and you just can't do it anymore. That's diets. Now, here we have wu-wei. You're saying, well, I was 100% in. I was super focused. So I was definitely practicing that Taoist thing about being 100% in. And yet the task was too big. Overnight, you completely flipped your world upside down and you thought you were going to survive that. Yeah, that doesn't happen to anybody. So when we look at health is an issue of steps. Health is a process of steps. To get unhealthy, it actually took us a process of steps to get to where we are today, right? So for me to get to where I am today, food was a big player in that because I love junk food. That's like my favorite. I grew up on, frozen dinners and sodas. So that was my generation, loved it. But now I have to change that. And in order to change that, I tried that diet thing and that's exactly what I did is I hit exhaustion and I had to dump it. And then I was able to gain everything back and a little bit more. I was not very happy about that. So when we look at Wei Wu-wei, the other aspect of it is picking a task that you can focus on. And in order to pick a task that you can focus on and do your very best at, pick the smallest thing. So when you're trying to improve your health and you want to look at it from a Taoist perspective, you're going to want to pick the smallest thing that you can do an awesome job at. Do that super well and do that every day. You're not going to want to pick the largest task on the plate and say, that's the one I want to do. So if there's 10 things that you want to do to reach your health goals. Let's say you do have a health goal that you think that you need to reduce your weight. Well, okay, that's okay. Yet that health goal has so many components to it. And it might not just be counting calories, or it might not be food restrictions. It might be looking at your foods and saying, well, let's cut out sodas. That's actually a huge one for me. So that's not my easiest one to do. And if I start picking up sodas again, they are so addictive that I have to go through that whole detoxing thing again. And even if I do pick up sodas, what I do is I'll pick up those small sodas, the 8-ounce bottles made in Mexico, so that there's real sugar instead of corn syrup. And there it is. Okay, so maybe my health goal is, okay, I'm not at the point of completely giving up sodas yet. So let's go for a soda that isn't filled with corn syrup and GMO corn. And so I went for the sodas out of Mexico. Okay, that's one step. I can do that really well. I can stay on track with that. I can also make sure that I'm not drinking a 20-ounce soda because those are only like 8-ounce bottles. So there's something I can do that's super positive, that doesn't take me too far, and it's an acceptable change. And just that change alone can change your weight. Now, the other thing that I had to give up was bacon. And, when I saw that, I was like, that's not going to happen. That's like my favorite food. It's not going to happen. So that never came on my list of things to do because it was too big. I don't know what it is about bacon, but it was just too big a task for me. And instead, I did all these little tasks on a daily basis that changed what I was eating. So, I had to deal with a lot of food sensitivities. And one of the things is I do like bread. And so I had to figure out if I could eat bread because I couldn't eat whole wheat bread. Well, I feel like I hit the jackpot on this one because I found out I could eat Wonder Bread. And for those of you who grew up in my generation, Wonder Bread, that was the bread of choice for us. And it was Wonder Bread and bologna and mayonnaise. That was my sandwich snack. So for me, I felt kind of like I hit jackpot because I could eat Wonder Bread. I couldn't eat whole wheat breads because it was some of the proteins in the whole wheat that I couldn't handle. It wasn't gluten. It was some other type of protein. So I switched to Wonder Bread. And then after a while, I started making homemade sourdough bread. And I started doing all these little changes like that. And then one day I realized I hadn't eaten bacon in like 6 months and I really didn't want to eat it anymore. It just didn't sound good. So I never had to address that goal. It just happened. That is wu-wei. Pick your easiest thing any day. Pick the easiest change that you have to make that you can do 100% and do that. And then a week later or a month later, pick the easiest change that you can do and do that. So I was working with one of my clients and we were talking about it. And we were talking about Chinese nutritional therapy because there is a lot that you can learn in how to eat foods in order to improve your health. And so one of the first steps is starting to identify what types of foods are you eating. Are you eating foods that really support the spleen, or are you eating foods that really support the liver? And how you do that is there's a exercise, there's a one-page worksheet that you can open up your refrigerator and look at the key things, the 5 top foods that you use all the time, and you can list them out and figure out how they support your health or how they impact your health. And every step's a big step. So we were talking about it, and she said, well, hey, I think I would like to put this on my refrigerator. And I said, that is an awesome step. I think you should put it on your refrigerator because that is your first step, right? That's something that you can do. You can do it 100%. It's now on her refrigerator and she can take the next step that she wants to do from there. And that next step might be looking at what she's doing right now, identifying how that's impacting her health. And as we work through that, start identifying foods that could change that. And now putting up a new sheet of things that she wants to add into her eating regime. So wu-wei is about, one, being 100% present in whatever you're doing and focusing on how to make it the best it can be. So 100% present, the best that it can be. And then the third thing is it's about the small task. It's not about focusing on the huge task. Even at work, when you guys are think about having to complete a huge project. I mean, just the thought of it gets a little bit overwhelming and exhausting. And, you wonder why you're always exhausted all the time. It's because it's this huge project and you were given a huge task to get to. And what you have to do is you have to take that huge task, bring it in, and then you're going to break up that huge task into little tasks so that those are all doable. And if you can do that, where you can break them up into little tasks, kind of understand when they need to get done, then you start removing a ton of your stress. And that's the same thing here. If you've got these wellness goals, that's a huge task. And if you're older like me, it's a huge task. And so take that huge task and pick out little goals. And I mean little goals. And you're going to say, well, then I'm not accomplishing anything. But you are. And that's the other thing that makes it really tough is we're very judgmental on ourselves. You know, we think that there's this perfect world outside of ourselves and that everybody else can do so many more things than we can, and there's so much better. There's so much better at this than we are, or they're such a great person. And the reality is if you crawl into their skin, you're going to find out that they are just like you. And if they're really lucky, they're just not punishing themselves all the time. So when you're looking at your world, there's your fourth part of wu-wei. It's you start out with being 100% in, picking a small task, being present, and then it's about learning to accept yourself where you're at, or being comfortable in your own skin. The more you practice picking small things, the more you get successes. The more you get successes, the more you start to believe in yourself. And the more you start to believe in yourself, you suddenly find that you did something really big without even knowing it. I did something really big. I stopped eating bacon, my favorite food, right behind butter. And I didn't even know I did it. That's what wu-wei can do for you. Okay, guys, so there's some thoughts on wu-wei. Until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.